Well, hey everybody, and welcome to Let's Play Zeus, Master of Olympus. This is a bonus video. By that I mean it's essentially a skippable video, but kind of not actually. I don't know. I'm going to continue calling it a bonus video regardless. So in the previous part, we finished our final adventure. So let's try to remember this, shall we? We had Thebes, then we had Argos, then we had Athens, then we had Iolcus, then we had Tiryns, then we had Sparta, and then we had Aulis. Okay, so we just came back from Aulis. I can't believe I managed to get through those there. There is a slight edit between these two, but I did get there. So then there's the question of these bottom three. The open plays. What is open play? Well, these are the maps that I used to spend most of my time on when I used to play this game. I didn't really go through the main campaigns. The idea of them is they're kind of like sandboxes. Now, only the one at the very bottom is technically the sandbox. But they're big maps, very wide, very easy, very free. There's not really like a narrative you go through with them. They're just for building, and one of them is more about economic, one of them is more about military, one is more about sandbox. And so in this video, we're going to take a look at the top option, open play economic. You'll notice, like, each time one of the regular campaigns, we get different concept art. Well, for the open plays, they're all just the same one, this generic one of, you know, the pantheon of the gods. Under your leadership, Larisa, so this is this parent city, supported by its 2 colonies, will become the richest kingdom in the world. This is an open play adventure, so you won't have to worry about meeting specific goals. But there are goals, so when we head on in, normally you'd get the voice actor speaking. He doesn't speak in these, again, because there's no, like, main story. I feel like they could have had him do this, so I wonder whether he was kind of tacked on towards the end. I don't know. So yeah, we have heard the last of that man's voice, as brilliant as it was, and all the cool like sound effects and weird wacky kooky things that go on. It's all over. So you get me reading it now. Sorry. For centuries, people have flocked to Greece's large and beautiful cities, hoping to lead prosperous lives. In their attempts to provide for their people, leaders have stripped the Greek countryside of its resources, and now these leaders are scrambling to make sure that their citizens are clothed and fed, and that their militaries have all the supplies they need. Oh, this is interesting. They're talking about it like all the immigrants are from outside of Greece. I always thought they were just from other Greek places, you know, other Greek city-states. Quickly, they're finding that Greece itself can no longer support its large population. Your city at Larisa in Ionia, and this is quite cool, there are no parent cities in the main storylines we've done that were in Ionia, and this one will be. Will provide for the city-state of the mainland, and you'll be able to turn a tidy profit. Though Larisa has vast supplies of marble and wood, it is lacking the resources that people need to lead satisfying lives. You'll be able to acquire these items from other leaders, but it would be better if your kingdom could produce them itself. The gods can provide you with some of the goods you need, and you can establish colonies whose resources will complement Larisa's. When you're ready to establish the first colony, click on the goals button and set aside the goods that the colony needs to get started. So you see up here, the only objective for this is 8 skeins of fleece, which is like nothing, and 8 jugs of olive oil, which is nothing. There is a difficulty level. I'll stay on Olympian, I guess. Actually, I'm going to end up lowering that. But, basically, you're free. This is a bit like what some of the Aulis missions felt like. You're free to leave and do what you want whenever you want on this one. So, even though we're on a high difficulty, we start with a big pocket of money here. We've got 12,000 drachma to get us started. And, well, it's a unique map, you know, with things going on, and so it's worth showing off in the Let's Play here. First of all, here's our water, and I like this a lot. We get a river coming in, plenty of place for piers, urchins, as you can see. We already have urchins on this map. A little spit of sand here, and then it breaks out into just this beautiful, wide-open ocean and water, because if we look at the world map, see, we are over in Ionia. We're on the far right. They actually don't even have the little labels on the map, which I think is quite interesting. But yeah, so that means, of course, all of this is going to be water out here. Down to the south, we get some trees. But what you'll notice about this, and then there's this hill here, which is, you know, the place for a palace, obviously. This actually feels a little bit like Thebes. You know, the first place we went to had a similar setup here. So that's the best place for a palace, obviously. And we could just put that there. And then eventually we could connect the road down like so. Because I'm still playing on Olympian, we have to be kind of careful with the maintenance posts. But yeah, and then over here on the right, we've got this meadow. Let's spin around so we can see the very top of the map here. There's even a quarry here. Actually, we in all the recent episodes, we haven't had a quarry for a while, have we? And then another, like, big hill here that you could get some marble on if you like. And this is just to have fun, really. What you'll notice is there's huge amounts of open space. Look at this. Look at all this flat ground. So when it comes to building big blocks and playtesting and doing fun things like that, these are really the maps that you want to be going for. I mean, they are just nuts. One thing I'm quite excited to do, though, so I'm going to show you each one, right? So we got to get our 8 fleece and we've got to get our olive oil. Well, if we have a look on this map at the things we have, there is no carding, there's no fleece, so we'll have to be careful with that. Let's draw out a quick housing block here. So the meadow here is on this nice little island up here. Imagine all the fun, weird little things we could put on this. Well, we're about to see something new, something we haven't played with at all in the series yet. Not for 1 second have we ever seen a whole building. A building related to a food. A building I've been teasing you about forever. Have you guessed? Well, the answer is, guys, drum roll. Right, there's a hint on screen. What do we see? We see a carrot, we see wheat, and onions. Yeah, onions. Okay, we could trade onions. At like Argos, someone was selling onions, but we've never had our own onion farms. Would you believe that? In all the adventures in the game, there were no onions being used. That's wild to me, for me to realize. That's really crazy, but it's the truth. So this is what an onion farm looks like, and so you'll realize. So all of the farms, and it would be cool to have a mission that had like onion and wheat and carrots and stuff. Because there was only one mission that ever had us with carrots as well, right? Where was that? I think it was a Iolcus that we had carrots, wasn't it? Anyway, you'll notice that these are really simple. I talked about this briefly. There is no walker associated. Every single farm has essentially the same looking building. All they've done is just change the pixel, like the art on what is growing in there. And we will get to see, you know, you do see the wheat grow. So the buildings at least seem somewhat dynamic. They seem somewhat animated. And here you can actually see they're growing, so there is a bit of an animation for them. And they're popping in. Those first ones appeared very, very quickly, it seems. The city doesn't have enough food. They'll probably devolve in a second, and we've actually kind of had a horrible start. Yeah, look, so they've got the onions. There is a harvest. It seems that they harvest this in April, and I don't know, it's a bit like wheat, but I think it might be a bit more regular. There's probably something interesting about that. Let's say storage and distribution, just so that they have the employees to move the onions over there. Now, I'll show you guys another trick, actually, if you like. One that I've been meaning to show off for a while here. It's similar to the teleportation trick that I showed. Yeah, like, our entire city's workforce here is employed to move. Oh, yeah, they're going to the intermediary granary. All right, which means she is as well, because it's in range. All right, here's the trick. Very similar to what we did with that monster battle before, with our hero. Remember, how's our AI going to work? She's going to go to the granary to collect the onions. When she gets the onions, she's going to have to pathfind to get back to the agora itself. But just as before, if we make it so that she can't pathfind her way there, then she'll teleport. And she'll take her goods with her. So how do we make it so that she can't pathfind her way there? You're not really suggesting we build walls around that. No, actually, we're not. So the start of a colony, if you have long distances to move, we probably could have, you know, if we were doing Olympian on some of those earlier adventures as well, we could have utilized this trick. Okay, so we're in some really advanced cheesy stuff here now. You start a colony off, right? You bump the wage rate up to very high. You get your first granary down. You get her right up to it, maxed out like this. Once she grabs the oh, I might have messed this up here. Oh, I think I've already messed it up. Oh, all right, hold on. We'll do it on the next cycle. Hold on, hold on, hold on. She's going to bring all the onions along. Yeah, everything's breaking, I know. All right, she's off. Okay, before she gets there, okay, break a bit of path behind her, like this. All right, everything continues to break. People are moving in now, at least. Let's grab that. So watch what happens. When she gets there, I thought I could pause at the perfect... I don't know what I thought. So now that that path's broken, there's no way. And you could be one tile, it could be loads of tiles, whatever you want to do. She will just... Boop, she'll teleport back there. And all the food went with her. Straight away. Now if we reconnect the path... And we'll click 50 times so that the game recognizes that's what I'm trying to do. Because she's there, she should send out for another load pretty quick. Maybe she won't, because see, she's got another load there. And now we just break the path behind her again. And, you know, if you were so inclined... You know this earliest date speedrun idea that I was talking about? Beating an adventure while it's still 1199 BC, for example, as it is here. you would utilize stuff like this, you know, an any percent run, for example, of something like that. You would utilize this kind of trick. You'd teleport her back into the Agora. This will work with the oil guy, it will work with the armor guy, and there's probably cool city designs you'd end up using where like roads go out into different places. So here again, and it's quite easy as long as the road's long enough. And boop, there you go. So now we don't necessarily need the Agora close, but you would keep it close anyway because the trip out is important. And for what it's worth, I think it was a weird variation of this trick that was happening on those 2 incidences with colonies we had in the earlier adventures, where if you remember, the very first time we set something up, like, it just instantly filled the Agora. There was no pathfinding. I think it was a variant of this. Maybe something about the way I'd built the block. I'd initially let her get out. I'd broken the path in the meantime, paused again, rebuilt it, but because there was a frame in the middle where she didn't have path or something, I don't know. But I think it was something relating to that. And because we were using the Agora backdoor trick, maybe that complicated it. Okay, with those 2 tricks shown off, with the geography of the map shown off, the last thing I want to do here really quickly before we move into what the bulk of this episode is going to be is have a look at our exports. Okay, so what is this map actually built on? Because taxing our people won't be enough. We need to know what we'll be selling. And so marble, we obviously have that quarry. We can get some marble. We can potentially do wood, but it looks like wood isn't actually... Oh yeah, there are timber mills, so we can export timber. You already see that this is pretty good. 2 excellent commodities to export. We can sell the fleece, but hold on, we can't make our own fleece, so that one's a little tricky. We'll have to deal with that later. We're going to have to import our fleece at a pier. Armor we could sell, sculpture we could sell, but we don't have any mines for that. And finally, wine we can sell. So I'm going to be selling marble, selling wood, and selling wine. 3 things. And because this is kind of free and easy with no story, we know that's not really going to change. The only trick to this one so far is that we don't have fleece. Because we have everything else. We have olives, as you can see, olive trees, olive presses. We have the works, just not fleece. So we'll be importing that. To that end, if you look at the map here, we're Larisa in Ionia. I believe Phoenicia will buy our fleece. Egypt sells our... Okay, Egypt buys our wine, so that's who we'll export wine to. We will buy fleece from Thebes. Great to see another parent city here. Mycenae will buy our wood. So there you go. And Troy's even here as well. That's nice. Troy producing onions on this campaign. So that's the idea. Now, what I'm going to do... There's quite a lot of content here. This is... In theory, Larisa, a whole other parent city to add to that list that we just ran through at the start of this video. Which is and it even has the colony map, which obviously I want to get to. So I've been thinking to myself, how do I want to do this? I don't want to skip this. Let's do a new type of video here, or, you know, episode of the LP. Well, I'm going to build the parent city. And we're going to do post-commentary. You've met me, you've met Black and White WP. Well, it's time to meet Super Speed WP, okay? He speaks like a chipmunk, and we'll be going really fast. Actually, Super Speed WP has been in the series like twice, very, very briefly, but he didn't announce himself. So, yeah, let's run with that. I'm gonna build it now, and then you'll hear my reflections in a second. So let's do it. And as you can see, I've actually reset the map here too, so we have a totally fresh start. Alright, I'm pretty happy with how this went. You know, it's been a long time since I just... Well, no, not really. I was going to say a long time since I just played without commentating. But doing a whole city like this, like a parent city style place. What I'm really trying to do is a bit of aesthetic work here, since it's also easy, and I've actually clicked the difficulty down as well. And the basic theme that I've gone with, right, is we have all piers. So I'm going to try and put piers along the river with a really long road, and I want all the housing blocks, all the same design, all the agoras, the agora backdoor trick. We're going to put agora backdoors directly onto this main one beautiful road, basically. And so I'm going to end up with 3 housing blocks that all come off of this big path that you can see here. I'm trying to plot out the very first one. And we'll see how it works out. I'm actually super thrilled with how Larisa's turned out here. The amount of drachma I'm spending here is less, since it's only like 2 drachma per piece of road now. So it's now 27 times 2, so I'm doing 54. So yeah, you see I'll put that agora there onto the road. Oh, it's 10 out of 10. And the road back there is going to end up really long. Well, you can already see how long it is, but it's going to have a lot of activity. Loads of busy workers, loads of people doing things. And 0 maintenance. Because there's not actually technically going to be anything on the road. all the housing block stuff's going to be on the inside. As for services on the housing blocks, I don't really know, but one thing I've wanted to do for a while is just like open the safety and hygiene tab and just put all the buildings down in a line. So that's kind of what I've done here. You know, infirmary, fountain, tax officer. I didn't do a watch post here. I think I will do a watch post in one of them though. And then yeah, just surround it with park and then column. You know what I was saying? I want a justification for doing column, park, column instead of park, column, park. Well, actually, when you do multiple housing blocks like this, you can do it the other way. You can put the column on the inside and the park on the outside, because that would allow your columns to look nice when the two housing blocks press up against one another. I'll show you what I mean in a second. Anyway, here I'm trying to do a really wacky thing with their entrance to the block. This design is awesome, except it cuts people off from Greece, and I still don't really have a really easy way to create that tiny path out that doesn't compromise on other buildings. And also, as far as culture's working, since we had all those problems before, here you can see I've messed up here. So we've got Avenue, not Boulevard. I don't actually know whether all those houses will fully evolve. What I'm basically doing, yeah, so we're putting culture on the inside. So I'm doing colleges and podiums, not theatres, because it's less space. You know, a college is smaller than a theatre, and a podium is smaller than a drama school. So yeah, but look what I'm doing with the parks here. Basically, I'm going to make the people walk all the way around, and then they get in on the other side. And I've left that tiny little gap with a little roadblock on it. I thought that looked good. And then what I'm going to do, you'll see in a second, I'm going to put the palace up there. Which means everyone has to walk past the palace to get into the 3 housing blocks, like so. So here, check it out as well. Now we have a distribution bay. So I'll just put this distribution up here and slowly expand that with more granaries, more storehouses as our population grows. Any piers that are importing important stuff like fleece here, I'll put up near the distribution bay. So at least for these first housing blocks, they'll grab the fleece straight off of the damn thing. Another thing from playing later, look at this flow of people. I love this. I could have gone even crazier with it and made them real rats in a maze, but I decided not to. Yeah, and the other nice thing about being on easy mode is this initial like importation is so comfortable. You can just build housing blocks and you'll know you'll be all right with money. I'm trying to do something a little different with the wineries here. See, I put parks and columns around. I'm trying to make it look pretty. Now, there's something very specific that's inspired that. It looks good, doesn't it? I really enjoy it. And I'll show you why. Also, on the easier mode, I can put those maintenance posts halfway up the roads. I realise at this point, I haven't re-established my onion farms from my little demonstration there before. Trying to do like a nice shape here. And I found when I wasn't commentating and stopping constantly, I just kind of got in this mode of like, let's just try and make things look pretty. Let's space buildings out a little bit more. Let's do weird stuff. I think that's also in large part due to the fact we have so much space here at Larisa. So here I'm trying another weird thing, which I've wanted to do for a while, which is just a like a big courtyard filled with path, and just let the maintenance guy go crazy there. Now that granary broke though, which is ironic because that took my eye away from this maintenance guy who's going to end up with an issue here. See, check that out. I've roadblocked that wrong. So that'll break in a second. They've got a mammoth road to get there, to get the marble. Unfortunately, we sell marble at the same pier we buy the fleece from. So there's nothing for it. Here I have another idea, like just 4 growers' lodges and little corners. You don't need that many buildings, obviously. And then olive trees on the inside and surrounding it. I think that looks okay, you know. Now I need presses, and I want to move the presses closer to the housing blocks so the goods are slowly getting distributed their way over there. And we have a getting storehouse there as well. So accept olives and a getting storehouse. So we've got 2 getters for what will ultimately be 3 housing blocks. I've only evolved 1 of the housing blocks so far because, you know, I wanted to be sure about the food. Dump some more onion farms down. Another maintenance officer for them. I realized we could double up with this path. So what you're looking at here, right, this whole little montage, this was 37 minutes of building. What you're watching here. Now, I've sped it up to the point that you will get it all back in 9 minutes, which I actually really like. You know, I don't watch many, like, ArtStation streams, you know, where they'll be in Photoshop and they'll speed through and stuff. But it feels... I'm making this out to be much bigger than it is, isn't it? It's like when we were talking about Bob Ross. It feels a bit like that watching this pack, you know? Like we're just slowly building it up. Something about the jagged, fast movement with the super speeding. We gave them their final piece of culture. So yeah, I'm moving the palace. I had the palace on that mountain, but look, and if they give me a gap here. I kind of don't like that park there because it ruins the one central piece of roadblock. Like, wouldn't it be cool if there were 4 housing blocks all going onto that one bit of roadblock or something? But this is really cool now as well. So everyone will move past the stadium, past the palace. That stadium's actually kind of crazy. There's no way it's going to get to any of the housing blocks at all. But just for, like, centralized effect. So there's no mechanics there. I mean, it would take so long. Yeah, no, it's impossible. They have no route onto the inside gyms. They will never get competitors. So we needed a dedicated gym near the palace, which you saw me place there. And then I thought, oh, let's surround it with walls. And look at this. So I can't get a double wall back near that beach because the beach is in the way, unfortunately. But we can have 3 housing blocks. Everyone has to walk through the palace to get into them. And then surround the whole thing with walls at the same time as well. And have a stadium like in the center or something. So this design is, you know, remarkably inefficient in terms of like moving goods and stuff around. But, oh boy, I love the way it ended up looking. The third housing block's been a bit of a mess because I can't really figure out where to put the houses. Like, I've been struggling a lot with where to put them. I think in the end, and I kind of ruined it. The whole idea is that main road on the back, the distribution road, has agoras abutting directly onto it, and the road is straight. But I've messed up with the placement of this housing block. It's 1-2 south. You're going to see in a second. See, the agora doesn't connect to the road. That makes me really sad. So I've shifted the road. That was quicker than changing the entire housing block. And what do you know? All of a sudden, we've connected. We've had that moment where one building project connects to another. We're down near the wineries now. And so here I needed some kind of way for them to get in past the palace. So the idea is these guys will go past this stadium. It doesn't really work, though. They start going around the front and stuff because I wasn't playing on pause enough. But there, look, just a long road of 1 billion buildings that they'll need for that block. But it works, you know, nobody's devolved as far as I can see so far. So we put some parks around, put columns. And yeah, if we had shifted it up with the columns, we could have had... Like, you see how I only have Doric columns on the right now? We could have had both types, but I would have to change the placement of the parks. And then I realized that the wall is kind of getting obstructed by the wineries, and I want a gatehouse in. The gatehouse is just going to look amazing. So we have industry on the outside, and then walls protecting the citizenry. And in 37 minutes, seriously, that's all this has been. We're near the end now of what I've built. We got a hell of a city going. Of course, a large part of this is we have money, and we can import nearly anything we need. We're obviously producing our own olive oil. One industry I think I still haven't set up is the exportation of wood. And you'll notice we have, so here I'm putting the towers down. There's a road for some of them. Not all. There is technically space for some of those other towers for roads on the inside at some point. But yeah, I'm noticing our money is dropping a bit here. We give them food since the granary is full. 1 granary, 3 housing blocks. Hopefully it's okay. But I want to get our money back up again now. So these guys will buy the wood. So this becomes a bit of a pier area. And I thought for a second, let's put the timber mills on the mountain, but no. I like this effect with the all the road together for maintenance, for like industry. So I've set that up again. Then they'll get the commodities they want for the piers, and that's it for now. Let's cut back to regular WP, super speed WP, moving out. All right, so here we are. Just a few onion farms. Some vineyards, some stuff sorted out. It's really weird. I'm not wearing my headset right now. I used to always Let's Play with speakers. I moved to headset recently so that it stopped echoing back. I say recently, probably the past several months. And now I feel oddly naked right now and weird. The sound of my own voice is different because I'm not wearing a headset. Anyway, yeah, we have 1 granary stuffed. I mean, I already talked about all of this. So let's move on. Let's go to the next area. Set aside 8 skeins of fleece. Set aside 8 jugs of olive oil. Now remember, these will be gifts we get as we move on. So we move away from Larisa. The second little bit of free play here now is we're going to get a choice of 2 colonies to go to. You have decided to leave Larisa for now and establish a colony to supplement these resources. After you click proceed, you'll see the world map where you can choose a site to establish a colony. You see, this is all very tutorial, kind of heavy. To read a description of a colony site, click on it. To choose the one you want to establish first, click the button next to choose this location and proceed. You'll get a chance to establish the other colony later. So these are not mutually exclusive. The story is basically build Larisa plus these 2 places. Now, I didn't mean to give you the wrong impression at the start of this video. You don't get to totally freely go back and forth, always. Unfortunately, it's still just like, if we pick Naxos here, that's it. We're only ever going to see it the once. When you leave, you're forced to go and never come back, which is a real shame. I love this art of the Hydra here. The way it merges into the water makes it feel like a sea creature, even though it's not meant to be. So let's go with Naxos. The fertile lands here are the perfect host for livestock and wheat farms. But this is kind of weird, right? They say the Isle of Naxos is well known for its meadows, which sheep in particular find tasty. The fleece these sheep provide will help you to ensure that Larisa always has plentiful supply of this basic necessity. Wheat too can be grown here, and it can be used to feed horses and people alike. When you're ready to return to Larisa, click on the goals button and set aside the specified goods. So it's all about fleece here. That's what this is about. It's about its meadows, it's about its fleece. And yet the goal is to get armor. And the other place is like an industrial mechanized place. And I'm wondering when we go there if their goal will be to bring fleece back. And the devs somehow messed this up. So let's head in now, and let's see. This is a lovely map. I really adore the geography here. The entrance is just down here on the southwest corner. This tiny spit of land with a little road. That's not big enough even for the smallest housing block. I mean, it is for some shacks. It's maybe up to hovel you could get. Especially if you clear these trees away. The idea is you have to do water crossings, and you got to do a lot of them. Look how complex this map is. So already this island is pretty good for a housing block, probably. We've built one on a smaller island than this before. Then we have, but where does it lead, right? It just leads to these cliffs and these rocks. You can't really do anything up on the left. So you have to build another water. Well, you could build a water crossing up there. But the reality is you're going to want to go here, probably. And then there's this big island. Again, is good for a housing block. You can see why people post on Reddit their finished cities, because it's like, how do you use all of this? It's really interesting. Maybe this is too out of range for a housing block. Look, you've got a long, thin meadow along this island here. And then finally this big island where clearly you can build your housing block. So this is where I'm going to go for, on the upper land. But look, to get up there, where's our ramps up? There's not even any easy ramps up. They're over here on the right. Up this ramp here. So it's kind of encouraging you to hop along these islands here. As for food and stuff, well, we no longer have onions. We have wheat, back to wheat. Urchins remain, though. Carding is available, but not olives. There is no second-tier industry here. We're not going to be building anything fancy. For mythology, by the way, I didn't show you guys, but these are all the same as what we had earlier. Hermes, Athena, Hephaestus, we've seen all of these a lot. Dionysus, a bit. Hades and Demeter. These are all available at the parent city. I think of all of these, the rarest one is Demeter. But I have plans for Demeter later, so don't you guys worry about that. But yeah, the mythology is available even in these free play missions. So yeah, I will get to building the city. And by the way, because Greece is the same right now, you could just do a couple of shacks, set up trade with, who was it? It's Thebes, isn't it? You could set a couple of shacks. Don't even employ a maintenance post, right? Just get some shacks right on this tiny spit of land here. Put a pier on this tiny stretch of land. You only need enough people for that pier to be working. And you only need to last long enough before your stuff catches on fire, which is fine. And then just buy the fleece. And in one load, they'll give you... Oh, sorry, buy armor. We need to buy armor, not fleece. We produce our own fleece, but they want us to get armor. And you'd think, oh, that locks you into it. It doesn't. You just buy armor from Naxos. No, Naxos is the rival. Phoenicia. You can just buy the armor from Phoenicia. They sell 24 a year, so they'll get a lot in when they come to trade. And you can leave straight away and never come back here. So you could skip if you like. That's kind of how easy these are structured. I'm not going to do that. I will build something of a city. Let's see what we got. Alright, so this is about 25 minutes of building that I'll give you in 6. I had a lot of challenges on this, actually. First, I thought, well, this is sort of too little space for 2 blocks, but too much space for 1 good block. So what I'm going to try and do is like a half and half block. 1 block, but an agora on the left and an agora on the right. Like it's serviced double. So it's kind of 2 blocks, but they're all on the 1 road. Now, if this was perfectly measured out, it'd be quite an interesting concept. But so you see, I put all the shortest walkers down near the agoras straight away, the infirmary and the fountain. And then my idea is we'll have culture guys and tax guys like... Oh no, I guess I've done podiums on the left and the right here as well. I think I do eventually end up putting tax in the middle. Tax obviously requires the palace, so we skip over for that. I think this island looks good for a palace in terms of size. Again, I like this thing of people passing a palace on the way into the city. Am I crazy? What do you guys think about that? But yeah, so they'll pass that, and I even gave them some towers, which maybe we could man at some point. Oh, I forgot to show the goddamn tower trick. Oh, whatever. We'll have plenty of time to do that later. Then I realised we kind of got a huge issue. I really don't like this terrain. When you build a block, you're trying to do avenue or you're trying to do boulevard. and then it turns out, oh, there's not enough space for a house or whatever here. So it is pretty messy. At the very least, on the most interior point here, I can squeeze 2 houses back to back. I also tried to squeeze out a corner of the house on the inside, but it's cut off from grease. I don't have my exit there or whatever. And then there's this huge gap. I usually opt for fish ponds if we get a nice big gap in the middle of a housing block, so that's what I go with here. And then I realize I can actually surround it with columns there. So we'll put a, because all the numbers were odd there, basically. But a hedge maze surrounded by pillars, and then that could be substituted for a monument later. Distribution is tricky here as well, because I have an agora out in the middle of nowhere, and it's going to want a storehouse and a granary, a getting and a getting. So I set them up over here. It occurs to me from this view as well, wouldn't it be awesome to have the palace back here now? I don't know, I like palaces that people have to pass on their way into the city. I like palaces surrounded by walls. I like palaces with a theme. And I like palaces behind housing blocks. So there's a lot of different things I could do with it. But yeah, so that's a getter. I've actually forgotten to go 16 and 16 there. So in a minute, that's going to totally fill up with fleece. Anyway, so this is an interesting mission, by the way, because there is a little bit of like PvE content, or the equivalent of, I don't know. With this, there is going to be a quest. There's a little bit of mythology. But since it's free play, you don't really have to do it. So what do I mean by that? Well, we're going to see someone arrive. I guess I'll just tell you. It's going to be Jason in a second. But he appears on a tiny little island doing nothing. So Jason is defeated by Achilles. And Achilles requires hoplites. Now, he only wants 3 for this colony. So it's literally build an elite house somewhere. 1 elite house. I would want to do a whole neighborhood if we're going to go that far to summon him. But the truth is, you don't have to do any of it anyway. Because it's just like a fun, oh, do you want to fight this guy kind of thing? Because he's out on an island on his own. Anyway, finally, we're off to carding here. Plenty of employment for this. And the meadow is obviously on this long, thin island. I loved what we did with the pens before here. So I'm trying to do another. And what I especially like here is integrating the rocks into the walls. I also realized we don't have grapevine or olive trees. So how can I create a gateway in? Well, roadblocks can function as gateways, right? And they even look quite pretty, actually, as well. So the one entrance there is just a roadblock. And I think that works. There's also, because I've never read anything online about that, there's also a chance that sheep might wander over to it and kill themselves. But I don't think that that's what happens. I think the reason they die on the roadblock because absolutely under no circumstance do they want to be there. If you think about a sheep, they're kind of a special kind of roaming walker AI. If you think of each sheep as a walker, they have like a very unique AI. They just sort of meander and wander around, unlike anything else in the game, except goats, I guess. Oh yeah, so I made this huge pen, and there's no meadow in there. Oh, and it was such a good pen as well. It had like the rocks against it and the trees. So I don't know, maybe they're just really weirded out by roadblocks based on their very peculiar style of movement. So I don't think that any sheep die, and I did go and try and replace a couple. And I watched very closely. I spent the game a lot watching very closely. Actually, it's amazing playing the game on max speed and then speeding the footage up. Look at these guys zooming around at light speed. It's crazy. And yeah, none of the sheep seemed to die, so it seemed fine. Yeah, here we go. Check it out. Look. So we actually do get a quest, but he's just roaming around on that tiny little island there. The requirements are incredibly limited. We're not going to build there. I mean, it's kind of ironic, actually. I almost feel like if I was going to do one elite house, we could dedicate him to his own island, surrounded by parks and stuff. Just this one elite house on an island, all on its own. And here's a cool thought. He'd need services, right? He'd need culture and he'd need an agora. So you'd have them all on a different island, perfectly calculated to be as far away as possible. And the very extent of the walkers, they go across a water crossing, hit the house and turn around straight away. Like delivering in post. But the best island for that is the very island where our invading monster is. So it kind of doesn't work. You'll also notice, by the way, this guy, this time he's been treated, the enemy, as just a regular monster. It's not a guy going for your palace. We didn't have 1 month to prepare, blah, 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 blah. He just appeared. So there are two actually different ways that they've utilized that. And in fact, the little story that we saw over at Tenedos, the absolutely insane mission, you know, he came along and destroyed all the horse ranches and stuff. That's a very unique interaction. You don't get that double dipped anywhere else in the game. So yeah, then a stadium, I guess, for a last little bit of evolution, and I had nowhere decent to put it for this colony, so I ended up at an agricultural stadium. Look at how much trade we got this fast. Just crazy. And that's it, really. Everyone can fully evolve on this. Yeah, and just shit tons of money just from setting up a bit of fleece. Here I put the oil down, and I realised, oh, whoops, that bay was meant to have space for oil, so it will just slowly build in. Everyone evolves very well. There weren't really any coverage issues that I can see. And yeah, maybe elites down on that island. And that's Naxos done. Real quick and bite-sized. I'll tell you, playing on the easier difficulty is so nice. Look at this. We have 58% unemployment. And, oh, there is a little bit of instability. That's a shame. And we're fine. I've got to be careful with commentary in this section because I don't know what I've already talked about while Super Speed WP was going on. But yeah, so there you go. So that's Naxos. Lovely little town. It's amazing how exporting just a little bit of fleece. You know, all the buildings take so few jobs. You have so much. You can have so much unemployment. There's so much cushion and leeway. It's unreal. You know, very comfortable. So there you go. So 8 suits of armor. We got a whole goddamn bay, and we're ready to move on. So we needed armor to complete our fleece colony. You have decided that it's time to turn your attention back to Larisa and leave Naxos in the hands of your deputy, Lerna, who will make tribute payments to you in precious fleece. With a new colony providing you with invaluable goods, Larisa is poised to become the wealthiest city in all the world. Already, cities around Greece are wondering how they ever lived without the goods that you provide. See, there's a whole idea of a mechanic in this game where, like, there's quality of commodity as well, which this kind of hints at here, but isn't actually a thing. So, like, maybe if I set my fleecing industry up really efficiently, then we actually have high quality fleece, which is fetching a slightly higher market price, for example. I think that could be a layer which could be put onto this. Anyway, if you can provide even more items, then Larisa would be even more profitable. Establishing a second colony that has access to resources that your kingdom currently lacks will only add to Larisa's prosperity. Remember, when you're ready to establish it, click on the goals button and set aside the goods the colony will need to get started. So what I'm not sure about here, so this is just a little bit of fleece and olive oil again, and we're back at Larisa with a colony monument. What I'm not sure about is if we just speed this through for ages, will we get some kind of like mythological event? Like, I don't want to move on and miss the content and not be able to show it to you guys. So I'm quite curious about that. And maybe we can spend this time to just evolve our guys. Now, it seems to me that there's nothing really happening. So let's move on. Let's set aside our goods for the other colony in this open play, and this is the final map here. You've decided again to leave Larisa temporarily and establish a second colony. When the second colony is securely in your fold, Larisa will be nearly self-sufficient and dripping in wealth. It already is self-sufficient now that we've got someone paying us tributes of fleece, and we don't even really need to buy anymore. So this is Smyrna, which I don't really recognize from any of the other adventures. Smyrna is a land of metal, rich in both copper and silver ore. Here, I assume we'll be able to just make a drachma. Yeah, look, 8 skeins of fleece for the parent city. This is weird. I feel like they've messed up and they've reversed the goals. I'm almost positive that that's what's happened there. The ores at Smyrna will significantly bolster Larisa's wealth. Foundries produce bronze, which in and of itself is valuable, but is even more valuable when it's manufactured into sculpture and armor. Silver is money, pure and simple. Bustling mints will convert the silver into drachma, and your treasury will grow. When you've established the industries to your satisfaction, click on the goals button to set aside the goods and return to Larisa for your final time, and that will just be like completely open play. So, what is this map like? Oh, it's pretty, isn't it? Okay, let's turn the game speed down so the months on rocketing past. Wow, they have ore surrounding the mountain with then silver ore at the top. I don't remember this. And look, we have the ramps, which we could turn into roads, but all the guys mining this are going to be off-roaders anyway. That's awesome. So we have to surround this, really, with foundries and silver mines. And what do we got here? We got some marshland. We got a huge amount of meadow. They're all, again, all massive maps. This is a very cool looking mountain. Oh, it's so cool. Look at this. They let you go to the top. Probably a place for a Heroes Hall again. I mean, what else would we put there? Maybe a college. That might be interesting. And then we have the ocean out here. A couple of little spits of land here. Meadow and some wolves. Oh, and I could show you as well here. I can show you a technique I've wanted to do with the wolves that's slightly better than the rabble this whole time. Okay, cool. So here we go. So that's what this campaign is: Larisa, Naxos, and Smyrna. Let's build Smyrna up. All right. So this building session is 45 minutes long. a little bit longer than the others, and the reason for that is, well, first of all, we have a bit of a false start, and second of all, I actually I expand too quick, and I go into debt, and I even have a little bit of unrest, which is amazing, considering you get so much leeway when you're playing on this difficulty and when you're on the free play maps. But I'll show you why. So this is the false start. This is not actually the town, but you can see what I've got in mind. You can see, so I got this really cool idea of houses all around the base of the mountain. They're all one giant neighborhood, one enormous block with several agoras all dotted around. You know, maybe I was imagining 4, one on each corner, essentially, as it were, as much as you can get a corner. And then I was thinking having the mints and foundries and the sculpture studios and the armories and everything actually on the block with the guys, which of course is going to have like a consequence for appeal. There will be issues there in terms of like getting the house to evolve, essentially. But I think that'd look really cool. And you know, like if I imagine a rough and tough sort of mining town, I imagine the people living there, and I've got this really cool visual in my mind of, okay, the workers, if they live in the neighborhood, they'll walk through the neighborhood on their way to go mining for the day, and then when they come back to their building, it sort of is like they're going back home at the end of each day as well, which is something the game does not simulate. So I really loved this idea. So to that end, I put all these houses against the base. I got to the bit where I'm putting the avenue and boulevard down, which is really important for the appeal. Otherwise, we're just screwed for appeal, because all the buildings are going to ruin it. And I realized I just have all those ugly corners. On super speed here, it looks like nothing. But honestly, that was a lot of very, very fiddly path movement. I mean, you've seen it in the rest of the LP. In every little corner of boulevard, I was thinking to myself nervously, oh God, what if this breaks the path? And I'm going to have to turf that. If walkers are suddenly being weird, I'd have to turf the whole thing up again. And I just thought that's not a good idea. So I hit replay, and I decided, same concept, okay? But instead of being nestled right in on the rocks, which has a value, don't get me wrong, I'm going to try to keep it somewhat square. I'm going to try to stay with straight lines. I'm going to try to... and like even here, where I'm placing the path, I have to keep it one out. It was a lot of delicate movement. And it works the whole way, except that tiny bit of the coast there, where the water comes in, and I won't be able to get avenue or boulevard. But now you can see we get all these straight lines. We go much quicker. Roadblock the entrance to the city and that other long roadway, and we come all the way along. Now this is a good way to blast through our spare money that we had saved up. But yeah, real nice. So we do boulevard first, and then all the like, little cornery bits, the little dingly-dangly bits, I then went through with avenue. So now we have the road. We have the houses. I tried to squeeze out whatever I can with the corner trick and stuff. Then there's the matter of getting the agora, and what I quite enjoyed here is because there are roads up in the mountain, like there are slope. Look at that slope behind the agora. Well, it'll come back into screen in a second. That's an actual path they can walk on. It's really narrow, but when we put a path there, there'll be stairs there. So basically, because there are ways up and down that mountain, all the interior behind all these houses is okay for putting like dummy road down. It won't be cut off from grease as long as I've left one gap onto the mountain, which I have. And I was thinking of making that look really grand or something, but didn't in the end. So yeah, basic services around the block. Come to put the palace. I decided to have central distribution in front of the palace. I think at this point I was also thinking about maybe surrounding it in walls as well, but I didn't quite go that far. I do like this effect of the double granary, the storehouses, the maintenance post, and then the 2 flower gardens in the middle. I actually hold the camera there a little bit. And then I figured, okay, we can do culture as well. So that's like the heart of the city. Palace, central things like the stadium and whatever. And you'll notice I'm going really big, really quick. Not a single person lives here, and I've put massive amounts of buildings down. If this was a normal adventure, a normal campaign, this would be suicide. This would be the worst thing in the world because... and look, every agora I put down, there is space for dummy road on the back. That works because there just happens to be gaps. It's so good. Because things would break because maintenance isn't going to be working or whatever. But we got a huge cushion of money. It doesn't take many people to field all the buildings on this difficulty. And so I'm pretty happy. So I'm just playing it through now. I went with Doric column because Doric column feels like most appropriate. But actually, I by the end of this, I'm going to go half and half. I'll do Doric on one half. And then, oh, actually, I think I went quarters in the end. Or I tried to. It's like there's like an Ionic quarter, and there's a Corinthian quarter, and there's a Doric quarter. It actually looks like the entire inner ring I did with Doric. But on the outside, I think I change it up. Of course, there's not 4 different styles of column to play with. I really am getting that vibe of like wanting more decorations. Do you know what I also want? In terms of like the foundries and the mints and stuff, if you're doing a dedicated mint area, so now you'll see I'm starting to beautify like agriculture areas. I'm beautifying places that don't even need it, just because it looks good. Like here with these, we're back to onions here, by the way. With these onion farms, I'm going to put some columns down. Look at how good this looks. I like it. I like dotting the columns. We dot the columns around those storage bays as well, and they look really good. So, now that I'm doing that, I'm thinking, okay, if you had an industrial area, this town is not a dedicated industrial area where the houses is with it, right? But if we did, I would really want some decorations that look industrial. You know, and again, it's like that Minecraft thing. When you play a Minecraft mod pack and you've got like a big foundry room or a forge with Tinker's Construct or whatever, it's nice to have decorative blocks to make the rooms look like they match the area you're building. Similar thing here in Zeus almost, you know, like if I build an industrial area, I would want industrial looking columns or some kind of, I don't know, metallic substitute for park that evolves into different varieties. I don't know. And of course, none of that exists, so. Up here, also, there was carding, which I hadn't set up yet. So we've got this nice carding courtyard. If you replay the video there, you'll see a really interesting effect with the footpath, where when I place the footpath down in that configuration as a big square, there's all these little gaps in the road that look ugly, but when you play time forward, the path evolves and all the little gaps disappear and it all blends together seamlessly, like the devs knew that people would want to use road in that way. Here I set up this amazing storage bay here, and this is going to have some really cool columns around it as well. And of course, we go through all this tedium of setting all these up. But basically, this is all overflow storage. So my idea is we'll get all the mining, all the art. We're going to dot armories around. We're going to dot sculpture studios around. We're going to dot mints around. I won't really know what we have in terms of bronze and so on and so forth. So by putting all those accepting bays, we soak some employment, and I just get to see. I look there. What have we got in excess? Are we able to sell all the bronze we can each year? Are we able to sell all the armor we can each year? Are we able to sell all the sculpture? And spares will start getting stockpiled there. And at a glance, I'll be able to know whether we've got enough. So here we go. So here comes the industry. And right now, I've put all houses on the inside, which have avenue or boulevard and column. So I'm pretty sure they'll evolve just fine. However, the guys on the other side might struggle a bit with all this incredible industrial stuff right next to them on the neighborhood. But isn't this a real sight? I really like this. It looks like an armory next to a boulevard, you know? At no point in the series have I shown that. And it was also important for me to alternate the houses like this. You know, if we're going to have an industrial building, put a house next to it. And then another one, and then another. So you're going to be someone living with an armory on one side and a sculpture studio on the other, for example. I was very slapdash about this as well, because we have more than enough people living here. Like, we got huge amounts of unemployment. Again, it's fine because of the difficulty, but still. So, you know, I'm kind of dotting them around. There's lots of gaps all over the place. We could tile everything in perfectly if we really wanted to, but it actually would be a bit more of an issue than anything else. And, of course, I'm starting to distribute stuff. So these guys have had fleece. I kind of picked this agora up here on the top right as my main agora because I put the piers here. So I know that they're going to have instant access to olive oil and fleece. They'll take it straight off of the pier bay, which, again, is something I've been enjoying. And separate towns sell the separate commodities, so it's actually both piers that are being pulled from. So I'm starting with that. But here's about where the building process, we kind of become a game again now. Because you'll notice I've got into debt with all this relentless building. And I realized I hadn't taxed a soul. So we're in debt. I don't want to go into a debt anniversary. So I'm really keeping my head above water here. We've had some handouts from friends. I tax people outrageously, which raises unrest, but I'm just trying to get out of debt for a second. And I think I'm paying them low as well. You know, I'm being a horrible, dictatorial, terrible leader right now. In fact, it says my popularity is low at the moment, and I don't think we've seen that anywhere else in the playthrough. Because to go to a low popularity on these other maps, is a death sentence before we even get there, I think, really. Things are spiraling out of control. But yeah, so I'm just very scared of unrest right now. The only thing I can think that's causing unrest is, one, employment, because there's still so much unemployment, so I spam a ton more of these buildings down. Two is that maybe there's a disparity between the kind of houses that people live in. So I give everyone all the vendors that they want and put some watch posts down. The vendors on the bottom left, though, aren't reaching a granary. There's nothing close to them. So I built that spare storehouse in an attempt to get them to go, and they do. You see, the food is reaching very briefly, but I realize it's not great. So I create this little annex here for a college, because their podiums aren't doing anything either. We have one spare college. If you think about it, the other college is really far away. It's over at the palace. I gotta say, guys, I'm really enjoying watching this back. Look how fucking awesome this is. All the boats moving in, super speed. This is cool stuff. Why haven't I super sped before now in the series? Well, I guess real-time playthrough is what the thing's been. Anyway, yeah, so we get some monuments. We move through here. That annex, though, I'm going to expand as well in just the greatest way in a second here. But yeah, weaving columns along, and I'm just doing this. We're not paused during this. You see all the people of the town are moving, because I'm really just building this to kill time while I see what the hell happens with our money. You see our money is amazing instantly now because they're selling stuff. This is a real treat to watch this town. Just see the different variety of people that are on those inner roads. Yeah, so look, I expand the annex, and we have a storehouse, a granary, and I think, well, let's give them some on-site food since this happens to be on a meadow. I didn't even really plan this. But so then I cage in a bunch of animals. Look at how cool that is. Technically, those animals could get out if they walk all the way along that path, but I don't think they will, because I think they're discouraged from walking on path. So that annex is so cool. Fish pond right next to some agriculture next to it. And it's all serving a purpose. The college is important. The storehouse is important. The granary is important. So honestly, guys, I said this so many times. This is easily one of my favorite places we've built in this series. I know I've said it 1,000 times, but look at this. This has got such a cool theme and such a good idea, and it's so pretty, and this is the pleasure of playing on the easy difficulties. Except here, look, these wolves have actually broken through the column there and started eating my animals, which I will show you how to deal with in just a second. I even realized we could beautify the mountain itself, because I misclicked a column there at one point. But there you have it. That is my Smyrna up and running, and some of the bays are even being used now. Well, there we have it. I'm very happy with how this came out. As I've probably already been going on about in the super speed commentary. Wow, man. Loving it. Okay, so even the bays are starting to fill up. And look at this little effect. Just splashing some columns around the trading bays, which have their own columns and look a bit like Doric columns. Oh, it looks so natural and so good. Obviously, not such an interesting palace this time. Look at the distribution section, though. Oh, my lord. Do you know what I think is really eye-catching about this distribution area with the flower gardens in the middle? Because the flower gardens are like these plants in these pots, and the idea of the storage bays is we're holding all these vessels and receptacles. Seeing a bunch of plant pots, you know, other receptacles in the area feels really natural, like that's something else that we're storing, but it's pretty. Oh, and let's check athletes as well. Postpone this. I want to see. So if we go to culture and we see competitors, I was hoping competitors would pass all these. They are. The competitors are passing these. And over here as well. Maybe it's a little bit infrequent, but that's pretty goddamn nice. Okay, so just before we move on here, what I do want to do is talk about these wolves, which have broken through this column here. So there is a technique for dealing with animals. Obviously, we could put a rabble there. Rabbles are easy, not a problem. But here's probably the better way of doing it. And I've talked about this very briefly before. It's with towers. So if you put a stretch of wall out, it doesn't even have to be very much. You know, it could just be the minimum amount of wall you need for a tower is like even less than that, to be honest. Let's see. Thank you for the gifts, everybody, but it's okay. We're completely self-sustaining here now. Like, that's fine. Can you do a tower on just a single spit of wall? Wait, wrong one, not a gatehouse. Tower? No, you can't. You need a 2x2, right? But once you've got a tower, give it a little bit of road. And if you man that... Oh, and then it wants some wall, I guess, for the people to patrol along nearby. Actually, that's a really good question as well. If I just man the towers now, what happens? Does anybody appear there instantly? We need a road connection to the palace to man towers. Interesting. I did not know that. Well, we'll have one if we draw this along like this, which kind of breaks the whole idea. There you go. So there's a guy there. So with a single piece of tower, you don't even need anyone patrolling along the road. You already saw he sniped at them. Your archers will shoot down the wolves, and from good range, 0 risk, and no population hit to you either. He meant to say popularity. So, these are all very, very good reasons to just put a tower near any kind of animals. And this is another way with dealing with, you know, that part of the game. Here, let's build a tower over here. Extend the road out in front of it. Remember, you don't want to build the tower on the breeding ground, so you've got to have some distance. It'd be nice to see the guys waddling up and down. There you go. I'd like to see if these guys shoot as well. Oh, is he doing it? He's just behind? But there you go. And see, they've got pretty good range as well. So single individual towers just dotted out, completely disconnected from walls. That's quite a fun idea as well. Maybe I should use that because that looks quite pretty and quite interesting. But there you have it. So that then would deal with our wolves. We could close this off. We could get our animals back. And they will keep them all dead. But I've built the road through here, so I guess it's not to be. Maybe we'll do this design again somewhere else. But I really like this little annex area we built. Yeah, man, what a town. Holy crap, it's so good, isn't it? So there you go. So that's 43,000. Let's set aside the fleece for the parent city, which we did not produce here. We imported. And return to Larisa. Well, there you go. So now that Smyrna's foundries and mints are thriving, you have decided to return to Larisa, where the ores and the goods that are manufactured from them will only serve to increase your wealth. Proceed. So, economic open play. Open play, no episode goals. With 2 colonies supplementing Larisa's wealth, nothing can stop you from amassing enormous amounts of money. Other leaders in the world stand in awe of your growing prosperity. So now we're back to Larisa. We get our second colony monument. You'll notice in the open plays here, by the way, well, we haven't had a monster attack at the parent. We had one at the colony, which could have given us a special statue, but what we want is one here as well, right? We need quests, basically, to send people off to get special statues. But then you get the 2 colony monuments, and that's it. So on a lot of builds, for like like this scenario, for example, you might find people put them in very special spots, like maybe these 2 spots or whatever. And I could play this out now, or we could just leave. So I'm going to do one more phase of building, and I'm going to do that in service of some mythology. I want to show you guys a trick relating to the Garden of Demeter, who we haven't built for ages. And I alluded to earlier in the series, she just hasn't come up for ages, so let's do it here. So, one more super speed section as we finish the town off and we get the garden, and I'll show you guys the trick. You know, I was feeling a bit weird about this last bit, because I thought, what am I going to do with this town? And it turns out a lot. This is another 45 minutes of building that we're watching here now. I started off realizing, okay, well, if we want to build a sanctuary to Demeter, we're going to want a little bit more marble, since marble is one of our exports as well. And I beautify it a little bit again. Beautification production areas. It's a really cool thing to do when you have the cash to burn. You actually see I was experimenting with dotting path around, just like dotting column around for a second there. And I thought to myself, no, that just looks a bit rubbish. Never mind, let's not worry about that. Also, we don't really have like a good storage area here yet, so I'm going to set one of those up. And then I figured, okay, so we're doing this weird like open pavement thing here. That's like the Larisa thing. So why not, let's do each little production center that's utilizing the Smyrna bronze from the colony Smyrna that we just set up. So here, sculpture studios, armories. Well, let's put them together, but instead of a road or a block, let's do this like open pavement thing. And it works, you know. The buildings aren't breaking. It might not be too space efficient or something, I don't know. But if we get time for this in the future, I think I want to use this more. It might only be because it's easy mode, but maybe the maintenance guys are just good enough, even on the harder difficulties, that this will work and stuff won't break, you know? Because I really like it. So, we've done a little satellite area for those 2. Then I figure, well, I'm going to want another one here. Why don't we try and build one out on the corner like this? And I tried to get it as symmetrical as possible. This is for artisan guilds. You got to remember, at this point in the town, even though I haven't evolved everything to townhouse, we have obscene amounts of unemployment. Just crazy amounts of unemployment to burn. So I put a huge amount of them down, and I'm not anticipating ever getting rid of them. What that means is when we get to the point of putting Demeter down, they'll just all go to work, you know, and I'm happy to let them run it all the way across the city, it doesn't matter. So yeah, to be clear, those storage bays that I put out at the front, one of them is for marble, one of them is for sculpture, one of them is for wood, and so everything for the building of some kind of a temple. As to where to place it, well, again, we got heaps of space. You can now see these temples don't seem too crazy when you're on a map like this, and I figured let's put her on some of this high ground. 2 reasons. One, because of the meadow nearby, so when she sanctifies stuff, well, I can put stuff like onion farms down. Unfortunately, we don't really have that many opportunities for things right now. But so we have in there some pre-existing meadow. And remember, she's going to spawn her own meadow as well. So technically, it could be anywhere. But I think this is a nice little effect. Oh, and reason number 2 is the high ground just looks cool. You also saw for a second there that I was thinking about doing avenue. More towers there for more employment soak. But again, if sanctification range is only 1, then I don't actually want to use that avenue. The avenue would sort of suck. I was thinking as well, you know, back at Pergamum just now, where Zeus sanctified some of our houses, we're actually quite lucky with that, because remember, Pergamum didn't have avenue or boulevard. So it's really tricky to see houses get sanctified usually, because, I mean, it's rare enough to have the goddess or Zeus there. But often when you do, they're going to have the advanced roads. I mean, if you're playing the game with any level of sense, really. But that was a unique spot where he immediately sanctified a house and it didn't even really matter. Here I'm expanding the wine. Again, we could do more. That was only a single growers lodge, but I'm keeping that same badass, incredible, amazing pattern, which I still have not told you all what inspired me about, but hey. Oh, and here I was dotting a bunch of random, fairly unnecessary watchtowers around, because I like the effect and it took up employment. It really feels to me like the game would have been a lot cooler if criminals could randomly, even if you're doing really well, criminals might appear in all kinds of weird places in the town. Rarely, but they might, and they could even spawn in agricultural areas. So I would love to be incentivized to just put watch posts down and see those guards not just traveling our housing blocks, but everywhere. Think of the watch post as kind of like a broader range maintenance guy. Imagine the watch post actually patrols double the distance of a maintenance officer, so it's not, you don't need loads of them. But putting just a couple around the city is a good idea because random criminals can appear all the time. I think that would be really fun, and it would bring this mechanic into the fold more. Also, now that we begin to build gods, Dionysus is going to start begging us to pray to him. And these columns between these buildings look kind of good. I have to say, there's a lot of new god dialogue going on that we're not really hearing because we're on super speed here. But it's like, you know, Hermes randomly started speaking differently at the end of all this. I think it's like once your finances are at a certain place or once your population is at a certain place, their dialogue changes. I was really happy with those piers we just placed. 2 piers directly side by side like that is very rare to have seen, but feels so good when you get it because the actual storage bay section of the building, they just tile so nicely together. I mean, they are made up of loads of little squares, so when you put them together, the pattern is just brilliant. So yeah, I was happy to get that. Not that I think we're really doing very much with them. And here, so check it out, we get a quest. There was actually a quest here. So this is to go find the sacred cattle of Demeter, which I believe is the same quest that appeared in Zeus and Europa way back when. So, no, I just looked it up. This last quest was actually the last thing we did in Athens through the ages. It was the final mission there. They're reusing the quests. They're not unique quests that are happening. They're kind of generic. And I thought, well, hey, since we've given everything a little bay, why don't we give the heroes hall a little bay? And I gave him his parks around there and some columns, which I thought was a nice effect. Some more towers. Basically, I'm just trying to slowly dig into the employment until I see that employees message needed. But the hero's hall in question, it's Achilles. And this is just like what we had at Tenedos, he wants elite houses. And so we'll have to bring Loris up to that. I didn't think we'd go this far. Honestly, I wasn't expecting to put elite houses around. I was kind of a little bit blindsided thinking, well, where would the space be? So I've picked this area sort of to the north of the city. And here what we've got is a beautified open pavement. If you look at the floor in there, it's quite interesting because I put the 2 monuments in as well. And that pavement area is supplies for a Grand Agora, which I'm trying to place. While I'm trying to place the Grand Agora, the Medusa appears. So 2 heroes straight away. Watching this back, I wish I did another Heroes Hall now, right next to the previous one. But I thought that this was... I think it's Perseus for the Medusa. I thought it was Theseus, who wants to be by the palace near the walls and all that. Well, we already have a palace with walls, so actually he's free, essentially, or so I believed. But it means I'm going to put him near the palace, and I can't put him near the palace. He wants some other stuff. So here's our elite housing neighborhood, and I'm very excited by this, because look at how many elite houses we can just instantly throw down. No issues at all with getting the appeal in there for them. All the commodities and resources are all already here. It really is going to be so simple as just giving them their stuff, and then that's it. I have culture receivers down near the Agora, and these are going to be culture deliverers over here. A drama school opposite a college. I thought that might look sort of somewhat nice. I don't want to surround the whole thing with columns like normal. I'm trying to like do this dotted effect. But I'm going to find out that that's actually not enough appeal to fully get them up yet. Also, there's the matter of the stadium, which they need. They want someone to cross across them with the stadium, and this won't work for that either. And horses. We haven't seen horses for a good long while, but here they are. And for the horses, I had to get them the wheat. So now there's a whole little mini issue I have, which is, okay, our people are eating wheat. So I'm going to have to go through every granary in the town and turn wheat off so that they'll actually start shifting over to those places. Yeah, so then there's this other hero's hall, and he didn't even want to be near the palace. He wanted a sanctuary to Athena and Hermes. Hermes and Athena over and over again. Hermes and Athena, and you ain't seen the last of it yet. So I just dumped those plots down, thinking, well, I'll look at them later. We'll finish Demeter off. Believe it or not, Demeter's already done. And the next I look, Athena and Hermes are going to be done as well, right? Like, super fast. It's all just happening instantly. Oh, yeah, there was a little problem here. The theatre collapsed because when I put the stables down, the maintenance man started going in the wrong way. And then I didn't have space for a proper maintenance man for them, so I had to cut some of the pillars away, which was a little bit of a shame. But, hey, again, that's useful that the theatre is there and breaks straight away because it allows me to fix things before everything else in the neighbourhood crashes. It's actually a cool bit of design from Impressions there, actually. It breaks quickly, but that is a perk for you. It would be horrible to lose the entire neighborhood at once, but that won't ever happen. You'll always see the granary go first or whatever. So here I am mousing around trying to deal with this wheat issue, fixing the granaries, and I realise I can actually import wheat from a second place as well. And we have ample money, so the horses will eat well immediately. In fact, there they are. I also get the employment needed message here, so I decide to finally evolve a housing block. There's olive oil for 1 block, which has just exploded our population again. Christ knows what we'll spend them all on. A lot of these guys are evolving very nicely here. You'll notice the 2 at the end aren't. So first we need to move the stadium. Unfortunately, that cool bit from before, no more stadium there, but instead it can come up here. And what this will do is this will run along to the gym on the other side near the Agora, and it will definitely work. So they'll all have their stadium access. They need armor as well, so I start begging for armor from our armor colony, Smyrna. And they give me loads, like mountains of the stuff, which goes straight into the bay, right in front of that nice little sculpture studio area and that armor area. And so everything just gets produced super fast. So this, by the way, I think is about half the amount of horses that you can, that a big city could support. If I did a neighborhood like this again, we'd maxed out like that military stat you wouldn't be able to have anymore. You'd be as strong as you possibly can be. With the houses built, this first hero, of course, Odysseus, he's now, Sean Bean is happy to come and save us from the Medusa. And here, look, I'll actually keep this in. Look, he has different dialogue here. Because we have so many unemployed, he ends up talking about, coincidentally, the Medusa who he's about to fight. And so, like Hades as well, I think his introduction dialogue's been a little bit different as I've been playing through this one as well. Man, all that pavement there, it just looks so good, doesn't it, once it's evolved? It's a nice effect. And then, of course, we have to send our other hero off to go do Demeter's quest and herd the cattle, which is done pretty much immediately. And we get a giant statue to her. So that's the town, really. The whole thing done. I'm very happy with it. I do want to show you this trick, so I'll hand you back over to my past self now, who will demonstrate a fun quirk of the game engine. Alright, guys. Well, there you have it. Gift of olive oil here from my Synod. The gifts are so huge. Look at that. 54 jugs. And of course we can't hold it. There's so many jugs. I mean, we got this insane storage bay. Armor looks like the only thing that we're still not totally full on. I guess sculpture, we've got a good balance as well. Marble is just ridiculous. Obviously, because these are very limited, short little stories, there's only so much you can trade and export. Like, there's nothing... What a cool thing would be is if a god arrived and then... like, by doing their quest, a new city blossomed and then it continued developing that way. I don't know. Anyway, there's only so much we can do. So some of the, like this marble, we just can't export more, really. And I don't actually have that many. Well, we did 2 bays of them in the end, I suppose. Yeah, so pretty nice. I didn't even mouse over to Athena's place here, which just got instantly built. Or Hermes. But there you have it. So we didn't quite beautify their things. But once you've got a city up and running, you can see just how easy it is to set some of this stuff up. But yeah, so to cap this off, I wanted to take a look at Demeter here. Having sanctified our onions, I'd have her sanctify even more, but all we have is onion farms. If you want the thrill of seeing this animation over a wheat farm or a carrot farm and all that stuff, you're going to have to look elsewhere because I can't give that to you here. I love the fact that we haven't been able to make onions the entire time, and now the first time we get them, we've made like holy, beautiful, blessed onions that make you feel amazing, and I'm sure taste brilliant. Just bite into it nakedly with nothing else. Yum. But what I want to point out with the Demeter trick is it's very similar to the Ares trick. You may be able to guess it already. That is, if you look at Athena over here, when you build Athena, a part of the plot is that she gives you olive trees. If we built Hades, whose voice line is different here, by the way, somebody actually tended to that one tree in the corner. Isn't that amazing? In fact, that tree looks different. Oh, no, maybe it's just growing on its own. Look at these guys just running over the top here. In fact, that priest animation looked kind of bugged or something there, didn't it? It's baked in. Hades, it's baked in. Demeter is different to the others, though. Demeter's perk is she gives you meadow to work with, so we can now, you know, now that we've finally seen onions, we can surround Demeter's place with onions, like so, and we can give them the maintenance man. And, you know, that's actually very satisfying to me. We can obviously use it for grapevine and anything else as well. That's going to completely destroy our growers, but whatever. You get a lot of flexibility in what you can do with her thing. Now, here's the thing. It's not a part of the plot. So I am going to save this as Larisa Thrives, just so I've got my save file for our next completed parent city here. Now, here's the thing. If we delete her, just like the deleting Ares thing... Are you sure you wish to demolish this important building? I am indeed. The meadow that we have built on, so the meadow that we haven't utilized disappeared. It despawned with her. But the meadow we built on didn't. So if I now remove the grapevine... Oh, well, okay, I guess you can't. I thought you could remove it and the ground would be permanently like that now. What if we only used a fraction of the ground? Hold on, let's reload here. Oh, no, mate. No, that won't work. Well, there you go. So, so you can cheese out some extra bit of meadow and extra buildings. You can essentially, with this trick... Oh, the game's locked up there with me trying to get to load adventure. Using this trick, if you think about it, right, we have spawned in grapevine here where there was nothing before. Now, it just so happens I've built this right next to a meadow because I wanted to sanctify the onions. But imagine a map with no meadow at all, or only the tiniest little bit of meadow. This is one thing that the game doesn't do very much of, but I think custom adventures do. Like, they'll give you just a couple of pieces of meadow, and you've really got to think about, okay, how do I want to do this? You know, because, like, the actual tiles now become important. Impressions themselves tend to give you loads and loads and loads. This is just so good looking, isn't it? So in that world, you could use Demeter to, you know, to create whatever you want. Get rid of the temple later. And now, you know, we've got like a farming area. We can use all that other space for whatever else we like. And obviously, if you want max value here, you've got to be careful of the paths. Like, look at this path I drew out in front. It's taken meadow away from us. You'd probably just want a tiny bit on. And yeah, there's this idea where you keep dropping and replacing Demeter to slowly expand that grapevine, make it thicker and thicker each time. But she herself is so expensive, you know, it's questionable whether that's ever really that beneficial to you. I think I've seen one discussion on Reddit of someone who got a lot of extra building space on a particularly difficult map because they used this trick to generate farmland in like one area, which freed up a huge plateau or something in another that allowed them to get a whole new temple down. So there are things you can do with it. It would be very costly and expensive though. So it's an interesting thing. Depending on the philosophy of the guy that makes the custom adventure that you're playing, that may be endorsed, it may not be, you know, does anything go or whatever. But that's the Demeter Sanctuary trick. It is not possible with Athena because the olive trees are already here. We can't build anything on that. Also, it's baked within the thing. So I think even if these olive trees weren't here, you wouldn't be able to build on that, right? And like with the nodes for the other guys, you can't just delete those. They're a part of the building. But Demeter is slightly different. Okay, the final thing I want to do before we move on here. We've been rammed full of olive oil. It's funny, we're getting all this different dialogue because we have high unemployment already. Well, look at it now. Our popularity is going to go down because we're going to have so many people here. Sorry, but the wages are just low. Look, this is like the gaming industry, you know. Nobody gets paid very much because it's a dream job. Everybody wants to go and do it. So, you know, people learn all these incredible skill sets in computer science and software engineering, and then and then they end up getting underpaid in video games. So there you go. So everyone looks like they've evolved. I've been very curious about this because I did just slap these together. It looks like the only guys that didn't get their appeal were these guys. And, well, we have a couple of monuments. I did just use a bunch. Oh, sorry, I don't want to cut down their trees, though. We could cut into the wall. What's a nice way of doing it? Well, mind you, it casts 7 away. Oh, screw it. We'll kill 2 of these trees. Sorry, guys. It doesn't actually look like they're quite getting to those trees anyway. And we can have 2 monuments side by side. That'll probably tag him. There you go. Ah, the guy right on the inside didn't quite get it. Maybe with some benches he would, but I'm happy to leave him there. So there you go. So that's Larisa. A lovely little town, which we've just built up real quick. There is, of course... So there are 2 more open plays to see in the game. Well, okay, let's save this now as Larisa thrives. This isn't with Demeter deleted, is it? Well, we could rebuild her pretty quickly. Join me next time. So one of them we've been to many times, Olympia. I'll talk more about it later. But Olympia, you see right now when I click this tick, it just says no episode goals. Olympia is like that always. So there's almost nothing to show off at Olympia. So one of the open plays is just naked there as easy as possible. But the other one is another mini campaign. It's the military one. So join me next time for our second bonus video, open play military. And hopefully, and I already have some really cool ideas based on something we just learned in this episode on how I want to do that military campaign. It's going to be awesome. So I'll see you guys for that very, very soon. Take care now. Oh, and thank you for watching. So in today's bonus section at the end, I want to show off something that I think is really cool. At first, it looks sort of lame and irrelevant. But the more I look, the more I find awesome things to pay attention to. So here are some screenshots, some promotional material that had been sent out to the press, various news outlets, gaming websites, and so on, right before the game came out. Like some of these screenshots are from the E3 that just predated the game's launch. I don't know how big E3 was back then, but they're amazing for a few reasons. One, you kind of get a sense of how the devs like to build their cities and how they imagined players would build the cities, or what they thought pretty cities would look like. And so here in the screenshots, you can see really close mixed industry. You can see, you know, Mythology right next to well-evolved houses, right next to houses that haven't evolved very well, versus things that are quite isolated. It looks really natural and really interesting. It doesn't seem to pay too much attention to the mechanics. But then if you look really closely, you actually see some work in progress pre-release stuff. Like, look at the floor. This is one of my favorite things. I allude to it a couple of times in the Let's Play. The floor, the paving of this marble ground, you know, when the path evolves, used to look different. Before the game came out, they had a more like rainbowy kind of colourful effect. I love the way that this path looks, and I'm kind of disappointed that they changed the art style for it eventually when the game finally came out. You know, a mod that reverted that to the pre-release edition would be so cool, because that looks incredibly opulent and badass. And in fact, check out not just the fully evolved path up near the infirmary and stuff, look at the devolved path in the industrial areas near the fisheries and stuff. That looks really cool as well. That looks like it's got like a subtle parallax effect on it. Better than what we got in the end. There's other weird little things as well, like this horse stable here. Look very closely at it. Those are white horses. They're brown and black, or just brown horses, I guess, once the game came out. But that's like a different breed. And again, they look really cool to me. Makes me think about different tiers of horses as you go along. Look at the texture at the base of the storehouse with all of the statues on it. That looks different. The monument color looks a bit different. Down in the bottom right, there's a weird looking aqueduct bridge type thing. Now, I believe that that's what water crossings become in the expansion Poseidon. So maybe they had this idea for bridges, and then they shelved it for the release game, but went back to it in the X-Pack. It's amazing. Just keep looking. It's like spot the difference. So yeah, just some promotional screenshots from the devs that kind of gives you a bit of an insight into maybe how they thought the game would be played. And I tell you, I have looked at these for ages. Really badass. And if you guys are interested, by the way, there is a Steam community guide where a guy gathered as many screenshots and things like this together as he could, and that's where I found these. So big shout out to that guy. Also, I think Heaven Games is hosting a few of them. I've basically gathered together everything I can find on the internet for you here for this little slideshow. But yeah, good stuff to everyone over the years keeping these things alive. You know, I think one of the reasons I really like looking at the devs' pre-built cities there is it reminds me of booting Theme Hospital back in the day, where if you left it on the title screen, it would go and do a demo of all the different hospitals that the devs for that game had built, and I would always spend ages looking at those too.